Hey, what's going on everyone, and welcome back to a new video. In this video I will be reviewing the new Motorola Moto E. So this is their second generation budget smartphone. It's their least expensive smartphone in their lineup. This time they added the option for 4G LTE, so you have two different models. You can get the LTE version or the normal 3G version. So the one I have here is the LTE version. The normal 3G version is only going to cost you $120, and the LTE 4G version will cost you $150. So after using this device for a few days, I'll be talking about my experience with it. Let's first begin with the build quality. Similar to the first generation Moto E, it's still constructed with plastic with a slightly rounded, soft touch plastic on the back. Compared to many other smartphones out right now, the Moto E is quite a bit smaller. So here it is compared to the iPhone 6, and the major difference between these two, of course, is the thickness and also how it feels in the hand. The iPhone 6, even though it feels and looks premium, it's actually very slippery. On the other side, the Moto E grips well in my hand because of the soft touch finish on the back and also the rubberized pattern on the sides. To access different slots, you can actually take out the band on the Moto E. And what's cool about this is that you can actually get different colored bands to customize your Moto E. So taking out the band reveals the SIM card slot and also the micro SD card slot. On the other side, you can pull out a sticker that reveals the IMEI number. The power and the volume buttons are made from metal, so it's very sturdy and it doesn't wobble around. Now moving on to the screen, this has a 4.3-inch display, so it's quite easy to reach all four corners of the screen with one hand. The screen resolution isn't very high, it's at 960 by 540 at 245 pixels per inch. So if you put the screen close to your eyes, you are able to see individual pixels and the image or the text may not be very sharp. But again, it's only a $150 smartphone, so you wouldn't expect to have a HD screen on it. Of course, the screen isn't all about the resolution, you also have to look at the colors. The colors are nicely saturated, it's vivid, has a good amount of contrast, but using it outdoors, I noticed that the maximum brightness doesn't go up very high. Now let's move on to the software. Even though many other Android smartphones are still running on Android KitKat or even Jelly Bean, the new Moto E is actually running on the latest version of Android, which is Android 5 Lollipop. I do have the Nexus 9, which of course is also running on the Android 5.0 Lollipop. So I really like the Google Material design with these upgraded icon designs and much nicer animations. I noticed that recently I began using Google Now a lot more, and I find it quite useful. Of course, with a smaller screen, it's much easier to type with one hand, and the keyboard is very responsive. Inside settings under the Moto option, you get some pretty useful features. For example, you can set downtime settings or keep the screen off while sleeping, and in meetings, you can turn on auto reply to missed calls. You can also twist the phone twice to open up the camera. Now moving on to the specs and the performance. So this has a quad-core Qualcomm Snapdragon 410 processor at 1.2 GHz. It's an upgrade from last year's Snapdragon 200 on the original Moto E. This also has an Adreno 306 GPU with 1GB of RAM. So this is able to run most of the applications that you find in the Play Store, including many graphic-intense applications. But I did notice some lag when going to different stock applications. For example, when browsing different web pages in the browser, going to sites like CNN, I did notice some lag. Now moving on to the battery life. Last year, the Moto E only had a 1980 mAh battery. This year, they upgraded the battery to 2390 mAh. So the battery is even bigger than the 2014 Moto G and the Moto X. From my experience, the battery is one of the biggest strong points on the new Moto E. Because of the low power processor and GPU, it really doesn't use up that much battery. So with moderate usage, I can easily get through a full day. Now let's talk about the speakers. So this does have front-facing speakers, which is a plus, and it sounds quite impressive for a budget smartphone. It's quite loud, but at maximum volume, it does have some distortion. Last but not least, let's take a look at the camera. Unfortunately, from my experience, I have to say the camera is the worst part of the phone. The back and especially the front-facing camera is not very good. The back has a 5 megapixel camera, but it's not very sharp and the colors are quite flat. The rear-facing camera records videos at 720p, so here's a video recording. Alright, so here's a video test of the second generation Moto E camera. The front-facing camera is even worse. This is a VGA camera, so it's 0.3 megapixels. And here's a front-facing video test of the 2015 Moto E. You can also hear the microphone, how it sounds on this device. It's a nice sunny day today. So this concludes my video review of the new Moto E. Be sure to check out my review of the 2014 Moto G, which is also a very affordable smartphone. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about the Moto E? Is it worth it? Or is the Moto G a better choice? Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe for future videos, and I'll see you in my next video.